What's going on, YouTube? A lot of people have asked, do you have any tips on how to get better in Rebirth? What could I be doing differently? Stuff like that, etc. When trying to think of how to answer this question, it's important that I look for one distinct characteristic about my playstyle that separates me from other players. I think the answer to this is explaining how to utilize different elements of information, equipment, and awareness when it comes to storm rotation and basic info. This video will be broken down into 3 parts. Part 1 talking about basic info, Part 2 talking about combinations of equipment, and Part 3 talking about restock. We will be breaking down some gameplay in future videos. Without further ado, let's get started. As you're already aware, the max HP for each player in the game is 150, and so it takes 16 ticks of storm damage before the player goes down. So at tick 17, the player is officially considered knocked or is down. The storm base damage is around 9 per second, so if you were to do 16 times 9, that's 144. Tick 17 would push it to 153, and at that point the player would be officially knocked. Serpentine has no effect on storm damage. I wouldn't test this myself. Sometimes like some of these perks can have like hidden stat bonuses and effects that we've seen before, like with Amped, allowing you to play up a little bit faster, stuff like that. So I wouldn't test it. It has no effect on reducing storm damage, so thought I'd point that out. With the recent nerf to restock, the restock charge time for stims has been increased to 60 seconds. This is up from 55. And this is interesting how we're gonna break this down a little bit more later in part 3 of the video. So we'll get into this in another segment. For each of these values, we are assuming that the player is taking no other form of damage aside from the storm. When we look at the combination counts, assume that munition boxes count as 2 stims when used at tick 16. So the total count with the munitions box in terms of duration of the gas will equal to 32 seconds. We are also assuming that we are not picking up any other items when in the storm. We are only using what we currently have in our inventory. So what I mean by this is there are times where you can be in the gas and you can find a PDS on the ground or an extra stim. We're not factoring in like potential scenarios in game. These are basically just raw calculations based on what the player currently has in their inventory. So now we're going to talk about some of the different pieces of equipment and the duration for how long the player can last in the storm before the equipment is expired or the player is knocked. So max HP, the player is knocked after 16 seconds, or they have 16 seconds of uptime in the gas. The gas mask itself lasts for about 10 seconds. It doesn't seem like they've changed this number. This has always remained the same in the entire game. So that is also including the animation effect as well, so be aware of that. For the stim, when used at tick 16, this will add an extra 16 seconds, and the reason that I am explicitly stating used at tick 16 is in order to get the full effect of the stim, it's important to use it at the very last second when possible in order to replenish your health to max and gain as much uptime as possible. 2 stims when used at tick 16 will basically double this value here, which puts it at 32. Same as before, you use a stim at the last portion of your health, get back up to full, and then it will deplete over time. So for the PDS, this might be a little confusing, and if it is, that's okay. I'm going to try to explain this in the simplest way possible. So the PDS currently lasts for 13 seconds in game. The reason that I say to use at tick 15 is because I believe the animation for the PDS, it takes longer to activate than like the use of a stim. So as a precautionary move, it's important to use it just a little more earlier than the stim usage, just to make sure you have the full effect in count. But the reason that it lasts for 29 seconds is because we're also going to factor in that after the 13 seconds expires, if you're in the PDS the full time, remember, your health goes back to full. So that includes and adds on an additional 16 seconds in total. So we are counting in PDS duration for the bubble plus the health that you replenish from the PDS itself. When it comes to the self-revives, when you go down, the health is actually the same amount as the base player HP. So When the self gets to tick 16, you want to preemptively have the self ready to go, and when it hits this tick 16 before 17, you activate it, and then upon being brought back up to life, you actually respawn at tick 15. So you have 2 extra seconds left to activate an extra stim before you are officially downed. So the durable gas mask basically lasts double the time of the standard gas mask. This is about 20 seconds. This is an item though that you rarely see. So I wouldn't count on, we're not going to be including the durable gas mask in any of the combinations. It's just an item that's just so rare to see and so like, unlikely to encounter. So like I wouldn't worry about this at all. Just kind of like thought I'd throw it out there. So part 2 of the video, we're going to talk about all of the various combinations that you can utilize together to maximize your uptime in the gas. The first section of combinations we're going to look at are the single stim and the no stim combinations. So I have a little index here showing the combinations listed, the duration for how long you can stay in the gas, and the conversion if any of them happen to go over 60 seconds. And following the stim credentials, or like I mentioned, we are only assuming that the player is taking storm damage. The inventory that they currently have equipped. So these are all the different various combinations that you can utilize together. This is in no particular order. This is kind of like just what I thought off the top of my head. So max HP plus the gas mask with no stim, you can be in the gas for 26 seconds. Max HP plus gas mask plus stim is 42. Max HP plus gas mask plus stim plus PDS is 1 minute and 11 seconds. Munitions box here, 14, etc., etc. So, and there will be a link to this spreadsheet in the description down below for you to be able to view and utilize on your own time, so you can kind of like see what the various combinations are. But these are factoring in all of the different base values that I showed you previously. So I guess when it comes to the most significant one to look at here is the max HP plus gas mask plus munitions plus single stim plus a self revive. You can last in the gas for a total of 1 minute and 32 seconds, which is pretty good all across the board. And the important thing to note here is that when it comes to determining whether or not you want the PDS or the munitions, it's very situational in that aspect, where it's like the PDS is really great because you're able to avoid coughing, which is like audio, but people can still see the little ring on the mini map showing like where you're actually located, but they can't hear you. But in this case here, due to the I guess potential, you're basically stuck in the gas of the PDS compared to munitions, where you can just get your stims again and move around the map. Personally, I think the munitions box provides a little more value than the PDS, mainly because it just allows you to have more free roam when trying to navigate to better positioning, and this could also be extremely based on where the gas is rotating to. Like I said, though, the decision to pick between the PDS and the munitions, it's very situational, but you can't go wrong with either or. It's usually a 3-4 second difference though when it comes to total uptime in the gas. So for the next set of combinations, we're going to look at the double stim section here. So when factoring in these values here, we are going to consider what it's like when you have 2 stims on hand. And so obviously when you have 2 stims compared to 1, you're basically adding an extra 16 seconds in total all across the board for every combination. So as you can see here, there's a handful of combinations that you can utilize that allow you to stay in the gas for over a minute total, which is very strong. So this basically gives you a lot of time and freedom to feel like you can rotate to just really anywhere. And this is the part that people really need to understand, is that like most players, they feel like that the gas, it's just going to instantly down them the minute they walk into it though. Remember, the whole purpose of this video is to express the idea in your head that you have the ability and freedom to truly rotate to wherever you want to if you have the right equipment on hand as well. And this isn't just about like rotating gas in end game. This is about utilizing these pieces of equipment information to be able to get yourself out of a bad position if you're getting held. If you've watched my streams before, I make rotations away from teams, and I'll go all the way from control to Nova somehow in like 40 seconds though, but if I can, I'm going to, and if it's going to lead to a potential win, then, you know, why not? Like I said before, this spreadsheet will be in the description if you want to check out these values for yourself. I'm not going to read through all these specifically, but I will point out the most dominant combination here out of all of the different ones that we've seen so far is the max HP plus gas mask plus 2 stims plus munitions plus self revive. That gives you a total of 1 minute and 48 seconds in the gas, which is pretty insane. You can sit in the gas for a hot minute there too, and this combination right here alone is the most dominant in the entire game, minus one other one that we're going to talk about next. We'll be covering a lot of these different combinations in future videos and how to utilize them in the best ways possible, when to use them, timings and stuff like that, etc. So really this is just like give you a whole basis of seeing like what the true capabilities are. So let's get into the next part. So for the final part of this video, we're going to talk about Restock and the current problem with it. Despite the nerf that Restock was recently given, it doesn't even matter if that was nerfed initial 5 seconds. It's more or less an issue that when it comes to the munitions box aspect of your sequence of inputs that you do to gain more uptime, your restock timer is canceled because you're automatically given 2 stims upon hitting the munitions. So it doesn't even matter that you can activate your stim 10 seconds before entering the gas, which will then enter gas at 50 seconds after the timer. Your mask animation knocks off another 10 down to 40. Your max HP decrease takes 16 down to 24. Stim 1 is used to put it down to 8 seconds. Then, if you were to use the stim at this point here before entering the gas, you have the stim available, but it basically leads to the same overall time as the default set for equipment here. So unfortunately, there is no way to really utilize Restock to gain more uptime. It's just kind of the way it works out, unfortunately. However, I will say this. If normal gas mask is replaced with the durable mask, for example, you can achieve an additional 10 seconds, which will put it at 118 at 158. And to add on, if each input is executed on, we're talking frame perfect inputs right here, it is very possible to likely achieve an uptime of 2 minutes flat in the gas. Nothing more than that though. And doing that would be extremely difficult and hard, and it's probably never going to happen, honestly. But yeah, that's kind of it. Unfortunately, there's no way to abuse Restock. So if you're thinking about trying to use it to make additional plays, there really is no workaround for it, unfortunately. To kind of sum up everything in a nutshell here, the one thing I want to make clear too is that these values and the combinations of how long you can last in the gas with each different variation of equipment is, you're not going to be thinking about like, oh, I can last in the gas for 42 seconds or a minute and 20 seconds based on what I have. No one's going to be thinking that. There's no time to think about that. What's important though is thinking, oh, I have 2 stims, I can at least last in the gas for 30 seconds over, very minimum too. So it's more or less trying to find a comfort level when trying to make a play that would get you out of a rough or sticky situation. So that's really the main thing I wanted to encapsulate on. So that's going to be it for the video. If you thought this was pretty helpful, be sure to drop a like, comment, and be sure to subscribe. This took a lot of time to put together, so any and all support is more than appreciated. So we'll start breaking down some gameplays in future videos. And yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.